Now, Jarvis, I think a no sweat bet for this year is that the Falcons will best what they did last year, 38 touchdowns overall, right? On the
Mm-hmm.
offensive side of the ball. And we'll dig into those numbers in just a moment. But
Mm-hmm.
just as you mentioned, our guy Desmond Ridder, he was on Good Morning Football on NFL Network. And the reason I say that, like, yeah, our guy, because we have always believed that that was the right move for the Falcons to make in terms of going with Desmond Ridder as QB1.
Of course. Yeah.
And in addition to that, feeling like he could be a part of what could be an explosive offense this upcoming season, especially with all of the weapons that are put around him. So Ritter said that he feels like the offense can be explosive with all of those offensive additions. There was even another wide receiver, albeit just to kind of round out the core and give him some depth. But the Falcons were able to sign another wide receiver just yesterday. The reason we mention that is because, again, you always hear that word coming from everyone else, explosive, explosive. But this time, QB1 said he feels like the Falcons can actually be explosive. So my question to you, Jarvis, just to start us off, is kind of even setting the stage for what you feel that definition of explosive would be for the Falcons, and what does that look like?
Now we talked about, how from a point standpoint, I'm gonna start there. Like
Yes.
they averaged 25 points last year at home, and I think that that's going to be really key for them. And also, Desmond Ridder was 2-0 at the Bears last year. Obviously, small sample size, but let me take you back to a little bit when he was with the Cincinnati Bearcats. Dude was 26-0 at home. He never lost. So there's something that goes to that, and I really like the fact how he answered the question as far as saying, "Hey, that's not a solo stat. That's a lot of people doing exactly what they're supposed to, and understanding the assignment, like we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Denver Nuggets, like understanding the assignment, understanding what you're supposed to do, because at the end of the day, we're pretty much at every home game at Mercedes-Benz. And in order to get butts in seats, and we know that what Arthur Blanks wants because, he wants to win, true enough. But when you win, guess what? You start making money. You get more butts in seats. You have more of a home field advantage. And that's what they want. And that's what you need, especially when you have a lot of new pieces on defense, T. You need that extra factor. You need that 12th man, so to speak, if I could use that Seahawks mantra, and to help you out and be loud on third and long when the quarterback is trying to get all the calls and all that stuff. I think that if the Falcons take care of home and make sure that they are giving their best performance and putting up those points like they are capable of, because guess what? If you're able to run the football like you did last year, I'm even asking for improvement. If you're able to do what you did last year running the football, and I feel like Desmond Ridder is going to take care of the football a lot more so than Marcus Mariota, that's what an explosive offense looks like for the Falcons to me.
Yeah, and I would add to that for me, an explosive offense looks like a little bit more productivity with what you have now in the wide receiver and tight end room. And the reason
Yes.
I say that is because, and when I say wide receiver and tight end room, let me rephrase, pass catcher room. Because I
Yeah.
think
There you
Bijan
go.
Robinson,
Yep.
that's where he's going to make the difference. So the
Mm-hmm.
split was actually even for the Falcons, 17 receiving touchdowns, 17 rushing touchdowns last season. But Jarvis, that also put a middle of the pack 17 to be exact.
Yeah.
And when you look at the top teams, and I'm talking about like the top 5 or 10, those teams that made it to the playoffs, all of their receiving touchdown numbers pretty much doubled their rushing touchdown
Mm.
numbers. So still, you have to have that potent receiving game in order to be successful in this league, right? So I'm
Right.
just looking for just a little bit of an uptick on from a rushing perspective. Why? Because now, in addition to what we got from the right side of the O line last year and Caleb McGarry giving good run protection, you've got a guy that we hope in Matt Bergeron that will really kind of shore things up on the left side. So maybe if you have a consistently solid O line, you'll get even a little bit more out of the run game. So I'd love to see maybe something on the other side of 20 touchdowns, right?
Right.
Receiving, however, 17 is not the answer. 17 is not going to be
Oh,
the
you
answer
got to have
because
more than that.
there were
Right.
teams out there
Absolutely.
doubling that,
Yeah.
Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that my definition of explosion would be, let's continue to evolve and be more efficient and effective in the red zone. Because, like you said, with you and I covering this team the last several years, we know that pretty much before last year, anytime the Falcons, it didn't matter, high red zone, low red zone, everybody in the building was cringing because they're like, oh man, here comes Young Wei Koo.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't
Absolutely.
want to
Every
have
time.
that conversation and sort of towards the end of last year when we started to see more productivity from Tyler Algier. And obviously when Desmond Ridder came in, it got better. Like you said, that's why you were able to average 25 points per game. Now just want to see you kind of uptick that, if you
Yeah.
will, and start to just have even more efficiency and effectiveness in the red zone. Now, the other piece that I thought was interesting, Jarvis, was this. There's another article that came out just yesterday, Mike Jones of The Athletic. It was
Who?
an overarching article for the entire NFL. I know, Mike Jones.
Sorry,
Go ahead and
this
do
is
it.
natural.
Yep, already
Who?
in my head. Mike Jones came out with an article in The
Mike
Athletic.
Jones.
Yeah, you can't help it, man. You can't help it. Like I tried to like keep a straight face, but I couldn't. But Mike
Not with
Jones
me.
of The Athletic, not he of H Town, he
Yeah.
said that he put together an article that was titled "Which NFL Players Are Ones to Watch at the Offseason." Now, of course, he chronicled all 32 teams. We just focused on what he said about the Falcons, and I'll quote it. It's still too early to know whether 2022 third rounder Desmond Ridder is capable of being an NFL passer or a capable NFL passer, but the Falcons are giving him the first crack at the job. Meanwhile, they desperately, his words, not ours, desperately need Kyle Pitts, the number 4 pick in 2021, to step up after a season of regression. 28 catches for 356 yards and 10 appearances, followed a 1,000-yard rookie campaign, closed quote. Now, first of all, Jarvis, I want to ask you this in all fairness.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Pitt's results last season were more about the limitations of QB1 or that he actually regressed and underperformed?
Oh, QB1. Yeah, absolutely. I think it was QB1. And it's funny because Dylan and I actually talked a little bit about this yesterday because I feel like the pressure is still there. Now, even though I'm kind of giving him a pass from a production standpoint, because of Marcus Mariota and the injury, obviously that's a factor as well. But I think just from the overall standpoint, being the highest drafted tight end in NFL history, and we've seen a lot of good tight ends in our time. See, I'm talking about from Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, Travis Kelce, George Kittle. None of those guys were drafted that high. And when you have when you take that guy at 4th overall, like there's a certain expectation that comes with that, and he's not going to be able to dodge that, regardless of quarterback or injuries or anything like that. So I think that he needs to get 100% healthy, and he needs to perform because I feel like Desmond Ridder can be a guy that can get him the football. I wholeheartedly believe that. That's why I'm kind of a little bit sad because he didn't get a chance to play with him last year, but just look at what he did with Drake London. Those guys were able to establish a relationship with each other off the field, and then it transferred over to on the field. It happens all the time, folks. This is not rocket science. When you like a person that you're playing with, more than likely, if that's a quarterback and wide receiver, that relationship is going to be really good. And I think that they're going to do nothing but build on that, and I think Kyle Pitts is going to be added into that as well.
I think so too. And, OTAs are beginning. Jarvis is going to be out at Flowery Branch tomorrow. So it'll be great to kind of get his feedback on what he's seeing in terms of even something as small as Kyle Pitts' movement around OTAs as he continues to recover from that injury that sidelined him last year. But yeah, we don't know if he's just the player because there are a number of them that we're watching, but he's definitely one of the players that we're going to be watching throughout OTAs and into the regular season. So listen, everydayers, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think it was more on KP that he underperformed and regressed last year? Or do you think it was more on Marcus Mariota? Give us your thoughts. Drop the info, the knowledge in the comments. Tell us why you think that. And hey, as we tell you guys all the time, we have shown you, we will shout you out and we will give that feedback to the rest of our everydayers if you guys give us some good information to think about. So don't forget to continue to watch ATL Day Ones on YouTube. We appreciate that. And we appreciate all the support and the feedback. And wherever you get your podcast, go ahead and download us too. When you're driving down the streets of the A, might as well listen.